No one ever warned Ruqayya that doing the right thing could make you so lonely. They didn't tell her that obedience to Allah could turn you into a joke in the eyes of people. That choosing Salah over sleep, hijab over fashion, and silence over arguments could cost you friendships, respect, and sometimes even your dignity. Ruqayya learned that lesson early. They mocked her for praying. They laughed at her faith. But when Ramadan came, everything changed. Stay to the end. This story may change your heart. Subscribe for powerful Islamic stories that remind the soul. She was not born religious. She didn't grow up in a house filled with tahajjud tears or Quran recitation echoing through the walls. Her home was normal. Too normal. Music in the mornings, movies at night, conversations about everything except Allah. But somewhere deep inside Ruqayya's heart, there was a quiet pull, a restlessness she couldn't explain. Even as a teenager, she felt it. When others laughed loudly, she smiled politely. When others chased attention, she stayed back. And when she first heard the words of the Quran translated, something broke open inside her chest. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was terrifyingly soft, like Allah calling her, gently. Ruqayya started praying secretly. At first, it was clumsy. She forgot rakahs. She mixed up words. She whispered du'as she didn't even know how to pronounce properly. But she showed up, and that was enough. Until people noticed. Her friends were the first. "Since when did you become a saint?" One of them laughed when Ruqayya excused herself to pray. Another rolled her eyes. "I beg, it's not that deep. God understands." Ruqayya smiled. She always smiled. But inside, her heart trembled. She didn't argue. She didn't preach. She just prayed. That's when the mockery began. They never insulted her directly. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they joked. "Oh, careful, Ruqayya's here. Hide the music. Ramadan police has arrived. Don't worry, she'll make dua for us sinners." They laughed. Ruqayya laughed too. But every laugh felt like a blade slicing something fragile inside her chest. At work, it wasn't better. When she requested a short break to pray, her supervisor sighed loudly. "Again? You just prayed earlier, didn't you?" When she refused certain gatherings, people whispered, "She thinks she's better than us." And when Ramadan approached, the pressure intensified. For others, Ramadan was about food, iftar plans, outfits, photos. For Ruqayya, Ramadan felt like walking into a storm. She fasted quietly. She prayed during lunch breaks. She read Quran on her phone, hiding the screen whenever someone walked past. Yet the mocking grew louder. "You're fasting again, even in this heat? You know you can make it up later, right? Why are you stressing yourself?" Ruqayya didn't know how to explain that she wasn't stressing herself. She was saving herself. But words failed her, so she stayed silent. One evening, exhausted and drained, Ruqayya sat alone on her prayer mat. Her iftar was simple: water, dates. Her phone buzzed. A message from a friend. "Honestly, you've changed. You're boring now." Ruqayya stared at the screen for a long time. Boring? Because she prayed? Because she fasted? Because she chose Allah? Her chest tightened. For the first time since she started this journey, a dangerous thought crossed her mind. What if they're right? What if I'm doing too much? What if I just relaxed a little? Her eyes filled with tears. She placed her forehead on the prayer mat and whispered words she didn't plan. "Ya Allah, I'm tired." Not tired of worship, tired of being alone. That night, Ruqayya prayed differently. No fancy words, no memorized du'as, just raw truth. "Ya Allah, if you are pleased with me, then let them laugh. But if I am wrong, guide me. And if I am right, don't let me fall." Her tears soaked the mat. She didn't know it then, but that dua was the beginning of everything changing. Because Ramadan doesn't just expose habits, it exposes hearts. And very soon, Allah would expose theirs. After that night, something inside Ruqayya shifted. Not around people, not outwardly, but inside her heart. She woke up for suhoor with heavy eyes, yet a strange calm settled over her chest. The mocking hadn't stopped, the whispers hadn't softened, but her heart no longer begged people for acceptance. She had made a quiet decision. If I lose everyone but keep Allah, that is not loss. Still, the test didn't ease. In fact, it intensified. At work, lunch breaks became louder without her. They stopped inviting her, not because she said anything, but because her presence reminded them of something they were running from. Her silence was uncomfortable. Her consistency was threatening. One afternoon, as Ruqayya stood in a corner finishing her Salah, she overheard voices behind her. She thinks praying will save her. Let's see how long she keeps it up. Ramadan will pass, she'll go back to normal. Ruqayya didn't turn around. Her hands trembled slightly as she folded her prayer mat. For a second, her heart hurt. Then she remembered something she once read. If people mock your obedience, it's because your light exposes their darkness. She inhaled slowly and walked away. While people measured faith by noise, Ruqayya was growing in silence. She stopped scrolling mindlessly. She replaced it with Quran recitations, even if she didn't understand every verse yet. She memorized small du'as, short ones, but powerful. She prayed tahajjud once, just once, and cried so hard she scared herself. Not because she was sad, but because she finally felt seen. In the darkness of her room, with no audience and no applause, Ruqayya felt closer to Allah than she ever had in her life. And Allah was preparing her. Mid-Ramadan, something happened that nearly broke her. During a small gathering at work, food was passed around before iftar time. Someone joked loudly, "Oh, sorry, Ruqayya can't eat. She's holy." Laughter erupted. Someone else added, "Don't worry, she'll pray for us while we enjoy." The room filled with chuckles. Ruqayya felt every eye turn toward her. Her throat tightened. This time, she couldn't smile. She lowered her gaze and said softly, "It's okay. Enjoy." But when she reached the restroom and locked the door, her strength cracked. Tears streamed down her face. Not because of hunger, but because of humiliation. She whispered, barely audible, "Ya Allah, did I choose this?" And for the first time, she felt an answer. Not in words, but in peace. As the days passed, something strange started happening. The same people who mocked her began watching her. Quietly, one colleague stopped playing music around her. Another asked, casually, "Does fasting really help you feel calmer?" A woman once laughed at her hijab, then asked where she bought it. Ruqayya didn't notice at first, but Allah was softening hearts, even as they pretended not to care. One evening, just before iftar, the office lost power. No lights, no distractions. No phones working. Everyone sat in awkward silence. Ruqayya broke her fast quietly with dates. Someone whispered, "Why dates?" She answered gently, "It's the sunnah." No lecture, no pressure, just truth. Another voice asked, "Do you ever get tired of being Like this? Ruqayya paused, then said words she didn't plan. I used to be tired of living without Allah. Silence filled the room, not awkward this time, heavy, thoughtful. That night, when Ruqayya went home, she felt something she hadn't felt before. Not victory, but relief. She didn't know it yet, but hearts were cracking open. Questions were forming, and the same Ramadan they mocked was about to expose what they were missing. Because Allah doesn't rush guidance. He plants it, and when it grows, it changes everything. The last 10 nights of Ramadan arrived quietly, no announcements, no dramatic signs, just a heaviness in the air, as if something unseen was about to descend. Ruqayya felt it. She couldn't explain it, but her heart became softer and heavier at the same time. She cried more in her prayers, not from pain anymore, but from surrender. She stopped asking Allah to change people. She started asking Allah to keep her firm. Ya Allah, she whispered one night, even if I stand alone, don't let me leave you. And Allah heard her. It was Laylatul Qadr, or at least one of the nights that felt like it. The masjid was fuller than usual, the air thick with tears, whispers, trembling du'as. Ruqayya stood in prayer, her hands folded, her heart shaking. Behind her were people she never expected to see there. A colleague who once mocked her fasting, a friend who laughed at her prayers, a woman who once said, "You're doing too much." They stood quietly, not confident, not proud, lost. Ruqayya didn't turn around, but Allah turned hearts. After the prayer, one of them approached her, eyes red, voice low. "I need to ask you something," the woman said. "How did you stay consistent when we laughed at you?" Ruqayya froze. This was the moment she once dreamed of, the apology, the acknowledgement, but instead of pride, she felt fear. Fear of saying the wrong thing, so she said the simplest truth. "I was scared too. I just held on to Allah." The woman broke down. "I mocked you," she sobbed, "and now I feel empty. Ramadan is almost over, and I feel like I wasted my life." Ruqayya held her hand, not as someone superior, but as someone who understood. One by one, people came. Quiet conversations, soft confessions. "I started praying because I kept watching you. I thought you were extreme, but now I feel jealous of your peace. I wish I started earlier." Ruqayya listened. She didn't remind them of the jokes. She didn't replay the pain, because Allah had already dealt with it. The same Ramadan they used to mock her had exposed what was missing in their hearts. On the last night of Ramadan, Ruqayya sat alone again, just like the beginning. Same prayer mat, same tears, but a different heart. She remembered that night she cried and said, "Ya Allah, I'm tired." And she smiled through tears. Because Allah didn't remove the test, He made Himself enough. Ruqayya learned something that night, something she would carry for the rest of her life. Not everyone who laughs at you is evil. Some are just lost. Not every delay is punishment. Some are preparation. And not every lonely path is wrong. Sometimes it's chosen by Allah Himself. Ramadan ended, but Ruqayya didn't. She walked out of it stronger, softer, rooted, still praying, still quiet, still choosing Allah. And this time, no one laughed. If you are being mocked for praying, if your obedience makes people uncomfortable, if your consistency feels lonely, know this: Allah sees you, Allah is proud of you, and Allah never wastes sincerity. Ramadan doesn't expose people to shame them, it exposes hearts, so truth can finally enter. Sometimes Allah allows people to mock you, not because you are wrong, but because He is preparing to honor your patience. If you are praying while others laugh, if you are holding on to your faith while feeling alone, know this: Allah sees you, Allah records every tear. Allah never wastes sabr. Ramadan does not just change habits, it reveals hearts. If this story touched your heart, like this video. Subscribe for more soul-awakening Islamic stories. Share it with someone who needs strength today. Your support helps this reminder reach another heart. O Allah, strengthen every believer who was mocked for obeying you. Replace their loneliness with your closeness. Turn their tears into light. Make Ramadan a means of guidance, healing, and elevation for us all. Ameen.